Hi again, class. I thought today would be a good opportunity to go about adding some more detail to our building. So the plan is really to show you how to use the tool over at the side here called components, which we can use to find models that other people have made in the 3D warehouse, then place them into our space. So there's a couple of things I'll go through here. This tutorial will probably be a bit shorter than the last one, the tutorial itself, because I only really need to show you a couple of things, but the time it will take you to do will probably be about as long, just because you'll have to do those things over and over a few times. It can be a wee bit fiddly. So let's start with some basics. What we'll maybe do to begin with is find a sofa. So if I go into the 3D warehouse and search for sofa, you'll see that I get a whole load of options here, and we want to find something that's going to, fit in the space reasonably sensibly. Um, so if we click on this one here, maybe try that one out. We're going to get that model, which should be placed into the space here. And if you've modeled the shape of your building to proportions, with this person here, generally other people who've modeled things also model things to proportions, so you should find that whatever you import should fit reasonably well. The thing you've got to be careful of is that when you place something, you need to choose what surface or where you want it to start. And so that wee blue dot there, I want to place that on the floor. I'm not going to get too worried whether it's in the right position yet. I just want it to be on the floor. So if I hover that blue dot over the floor and click, you'll see that that's now placed this object and it's on the floor. Okay, so if I look at it, I can see it's sitting on the floor. If you place it in the wrong position, I'll show you, download that again. If you click over the wrong thing, say I click on this top surface here, what you'll find is actually, rather than being on the surface at the bottom, it's floating up in the air. So, as I say, it's important to take a wee moment just to make sure that you've positioned your model that you're placing into your environment on the correct surface. And when you've done that, you can use there's a couple of little handles on the model that you can use, these little red X's that you can use to rotate things. So if I wanted this model to go across the way, you'll see a snap, it snaps onto the correct angle there. And then I can use these little points here to drag it. So I want to drag this back here, and you see there's a little red dotted line that shows me that it's on that axis going across the way. I'm going to drag that back to about the wall there. Maybe not quite there. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same, dragging it this way so that it's not kind of half in the wall and half out of it. So there we go. So that's the model placed. I think it's a wee bit too far backwards. So you see it's pressing into the wall a little bit. So you just grab that little corner and drag it in this direction to make sure it's not overlapping with the wall. I think it might have been okay though. So there we go. We've got our first object. If we just click the arrow tool, which we can use the spacebar to get a shortcut to, click on something else, that'll get placed into our room. There's loads of other stuff that you can put in as well. Like, for example, if you wanted to do a kitchen, rather than you having to model every part of it, if you just search for kitchen, what you'll find is that there are a whole range of kitchens that other people have modeled. You'll see there's 4,000 pages of things that people have modeled on a kitchen. But I would say keep it simple. Some of the objects, if you try and click on like this kitchen here, you'll get this warning saying you've selected a pretty big model. Downloading this component might slow down SketchUp. So we want to avoid that. If we click cancel there, maybe try and find one that doesn't come up with that warning like this. This is a kind of a nice, sensible sized, mini kitchen for a small space. We're thinking about this like an apartment. So we could place it down in there. And then again, you'll recall I'd said that you can rotate it. So we might hover over one of these little red X's, rotate it round so that it would go against that wall there. There we go. That's it. And then grab these little handles at the bottom here. Just want to maneuver into a decent view. Grab one of these and drag it along back to the wall there. and that should still all be flat. You can see it's overlapping with the wall there. So we need to grab it again, have one of these little dots at the bottom here, and drag it down in this direction until it's not overlapping with the wall. So there we go. And there's loads of other things you can bring in. You can search for all sorts of things from coffee tables to cats and dogs. Search a dog here. So this is quite a big dog. So we place him in here into our space, and we'd find that he's a little bit out of proportion. He's probably about the size of a person, which is maybe a bit bigger than we want him to be. So I'm just going to place the dog here. I might put the dog onto the sofa if I can get him there. That look about right? Yep. And then what I might do is make a wee adjustment to his size using a really handy tool here. Under the move tool, you've also got scale. So if we use that, we can grab these little handles around the object and we can resize it to make this dog a sensible size for the space. Then if we need to, we can make any further adjustments to its position. So we just grab it, we can move it up or down or in or out. Now we've got our dog sitting quite happily on the sofa watching the kitchen. Now, the last wee thing I was going to show you about how you can edit the things that you've brought in is that when you double click on them using the selection tool, or alternatively, if you right click on something and click edit component, it kind of isolates it from everything else, allowing you to edit these models that you've brought into your own model. So in this one, for example, it might be that I wanted to change the color. And to do that, I could just use my paint bucket tool like I had before. And I could say maybe I decided that I wanted to use a kind of a different color, like an orangey color for some of the cabinet doors. I should be able to go around here and add those in. Don't seem to want to do it just now though. Hold on, I'll give that a wee try. Now, if you wanted to change the colors of the objects that you've imported from other people, sometimes it can be quite simple, sometimes it can be a little bit more complex. So, say this sofa, for example, if I try and double click on it, it may actually be made of lots of different individual things. So if I double click on it, which should allow me to edit it away from everything else, or right click edit component, if I use the bucket tool, it may be that I can just go around and I can recolor different parts of it without any problems. However, that doesn't always work. Sometimes what you'll find is that if you want to recolor parts of, say, this kitchen, which has been made out of lots of other individual parts by the person who uploaded it, I can't do that as easily. So if I use the double click to open up this component by itself, or right click edit component, when I try and use the bucket tool, it won't work, it won't do anything, because I need to break that assembly of different things up into other individual parts. So to do that, if you need to, what you would do is you would right click on it and explode, and then you may need to do it several times. So if we explode that again, maybe explode this part here, what you should find is that you now can select individual faces when you click on them. And when you can select the individual faces when you click on them, that's when you know that you're at a point where you'll be able to use the bucket tool. So if we use our bucket tool, we should be able to go and recolor these however we want to customize it and make it look the way we want it. So just bear that in mind. When you're finished customizing that single component, you can right click, close component. So the two key things I was just going through there were how to resize or to scale things, which you use the go into the move button and scale, and also to change the colors, which we did by using the select button to double click on an object or by right clicking on it and editing component, and that isolates it from everything else. If you take a bit of time, you should be able to furnish your space with all the different items you want. Everything from wash basins to toilets is available. The only tricky thing is getting them in the right place. When you're happy with that, you should be able to save this updated version of your file again. Just go and click on save, and then in here you can choose where you want to put it. Make sure you name your file. Okay, please let me know if you've got any questions. I'll be more than happy to help. If there's anything you're struggling with, I'll make another little video and post it up to explain any questions you would need answers to.